This is what I've been saying all along, that they don't look to the emotional side. If I had been left as I was, I think that that is the biggest thing for me over everything, is the fact that if I was left the way I was born, I wouldn't have had an issue. No, not at all. I would have been even more proud to be intersex. But by taking away what I had, they've taken my identity with it. Yeah.
This summer, I went to London Pride for the second year of the Intersex parade. The people I met were all unique, but carried difficult stories which reflected a past of secrecy and shame. This film follows their stories and questions whether the care has improved enough for the patients of today. Many hospitals and specialists refuse to discuss the issues with intersex treatment, many due to the controversy which has often surrounded the topic. But it is sometimes their silence which has led to people feeling helpless. On my way to see Jeanette, who's the oldest intersex activist here in the UK.
Yeah, when I was 12, I was taken into Guy's Hospital with my mum. And my mum was told, not me, although I was in the room, that I couldn't have children. I had to have a couple of pieces, a biopsy of skin on my arm, and they just took a couple of slices without telling me what was going on. And then I was taken downstairs and they took photos of me in the nude without any clothes on. I was 12 years old and feeling very humiliated and wondering what on earth was happening. At 16, I was taken into a hospital feeling perfectly well and healthy. Nobody told me what I was there for or why I was there. I had major surgery. They cut me from one end of my stomach to the other. So I spent the first 50 years of my life, in fact until I was 70, never having anyone to talk to about anything, and not understanding who I was, what I was.
Jeanette has complete androgen insensitivity syndrome. This falls under the intersex umbrella. Intersex is a range of sex characteristics which don't fit the binary notions of male and female. Many medical specialists use the term disorders or differences of sex development instead. Jeanette had undescended testes, which were removed when she was 16 years old due to the cancer risk they presented.
But to operate on a child when there was nothing, you couldn't even see that there was anything wrong with me. Why? When there's less than 1%, 1 in 100% chance with AIS of ever getting cancer. In fact, there's more chance if you have breast cancer than there is testicular cancer.
Whilst her treatment took place over 50 years ago, doctors are confident that such treatments have improved since. Professor Christa Fluke is a specialist who heads up the research group on DSD at the European Society for Paediatric Endocrinology in Switzerland.
Then medicine was not there like when you come with the knowledge from nowadays. And that makes it very, very difficult that if these people start to talk and they judge what we do nowadays, then these are centuries in between. Big turn came 2000, I would say. After we understood the genetics of how sex development works.
Meeting with Abby today, who is one of the intersex people that I met at London Pride in July, and she's going to be telling me her story.
I've got my female identity thinking I was trans, and there's this womb situation that's inside me. What's the connection? So I got hold of who was the doctor who I sat with the day after my operation, who actually explained to me what he saw at the operation, the size of it and everything else was in complete conflict to what was officially written down in the notes.
Abby was told in 2012 that keeping her womb posed a cancer risk and felt pressured to have it removed.
He witnessed the operation, said what was taken out of you was a fully, and I was going to say this again, a fully formed womb. Their term, a uterine remnant, if it was non-functioning, I would not have been bleeding. So there is, in my opinion, a cover-up of sorts with this.
Charing Cross Gender Clinic later contacted the University College London Hospital, asking to be sent copies of the photographs of the removed womb. They were never provided.
When I look back now, I have a sense of anger at those people who, even the term hysterectomy, they were reluctant to use.
You also have to consider, which is never talked about, and we only have data from some studies in India. Do we harm by not doing anything?
In 2017, one doctor admitted that intersex patients were routinely lied to up until as recently as 2012. But clinical psychologist Dr. Julie Alderson agreed to talk to me about how that has changed.
No, it was part of standard care in the 50s and 60s, but that has long since been discredited. And I genuinely don't know any practitioner now who would knowingly lie to a child.
Despite assurances that the treatment of intersex people has evolved significantly from Jeanette's time under the knife, stories like Abby's continue to suggest that there might be more change needed.
I think a lot of the concern that people have about the NHS is about care that's happened in the past. And we as health providers, we're all wanting the same thing, in that we want to have happy, healthy children and happy, healthy adults who don't need services, who don't need lots of support.
All the time I was in the hospital asking, is there anybody in this hospital who can help me regarding my intersex situation? Well, I was told no. Little did I know that 8 floors below me was a Professor Sarah Crichton who had been there since 1998. I can imagine how I felt sitting in this interview.
Professor Crichton is a gynaecologist with a special interest in congenital genital anomalies and was shocked by Abby's story.
She just shook her head, looked at me and said, "Abby, I'm really sorry. They should have known about me."
I think communication in healthcare is a massive issue that most people are aware of, and it's not just in intersex CSD care; it's in all sorts of care. And people have done research into it and found that some people say that someone can about the information they'll have in any one consultation.
I caught up with Danny, one of the intersex people I met at Pride, to discuss problems in the way that sex development is discussed.
So when I got diagnosed, I had internal testes, which they said were they said they were cancerous, but on the very just getting there. Obviously, I don't know what's true or not. I hear a lot of contesting opinions about whether that's completely made up or whether it's true or not. And obviously my parents are you say cancer about your child and they're just do whatever you need to do.
No.
Like Danny, Jeanette had her surgery due to the cancer risk the testes posed.
I found out from a lady who was 60, in her early 60s, who's complete AAS, the same as myself. She's never had surgery. She's kept her testes. She has a test once a year to make sure that everything's okay. And I just felt really betrayed. I thought that the NHS has let me down.
I think where the problem is now is that it also leaves health workers feeling a bit defensive, and then in turn that slows down the working together that we really need, because the way that we in the health service learn about how to improve services is always been by talking to the people who have had services recently and are in them now, asking for views.
Now we know that by collecting lots of data, that the risk is there, but even in these fields, there are specialists in Europe, they are now extremely advanced, that we know that most of these cancers, they don't come in early childhood, which for me, for instance, as an MD, makes life much easier, because I'm not afraid that me and the parents have to take the decision early when the child cannot be asked, or the young adult, how to proceed.
Danny is part of the younger intersex generation who are experiencing the current front line of medical care and is passionate about the need for change.
But in terms of like my GPs and stuff like this, like they just are clueless. Like I kind of have to go into there and explain, like, or not explain, and they like the HRT that I'm on, like they basically put it down as a contraception. So I've been getting like my NHS free for like the last like 5 years, because they just don't even realize, like, I'm like, wow, you're really prescribing like an intersex person who has no internal sex organs contraception. I just think it's funny. Like, why are cis straight men who have had no life experience with intersex issues operating on intersex people? I don't regret having the surgery personally, but I regret the choices that led me to it. I made the decision out of desperation. I was 14. I had the secret for 4 or 5 years on my own, and the people around me basically didn't give me another option. At the time, I didn't want another option, but it was interesting to see. Like, I definitely only heard one side of it. I heard the very cis heteronormative like side of the story, and nobody who was from the queer community or nobody who was from the intersex community was there to sort of tell me that actually there is other options and there is this.
There is a movement within the intersex community against cosmetic surgeries on minors who cannot consent for themselves.
Then what I've learned in the last year is that the medical profession are also mutilating children.
Who's got the right? These people are playing God, and they play God with me. We're going to fix your child and make that child normal. Come on, that's a load of rubbish. That is rubbish.
Consent, like if you're a baby and they basically assign the wrong gender to you at birth, then obviously that would be really traumatic. That's the main issue. So yeah, it's basically bodily autonomy for we need to make our own choices.
A Freedom of Information request to NHS England revealed that there were 88 surgeries on intersex children in 2017 to 2018.
So right from the beginning now, we try to explain carefully to parents and explain to them that this is their child's body, not theirs. We try to manage the parents' anxiety about any difference or possible long-term healthcare need or any psychosocial, psychosexual implication of how their bodies develop.
I haven't finished it yet.
Many intersex people feel they've suffered in some way under the care of the NHS, but as medicine evolves, they are slowly becoming a lost generation of intersex patients who feel anger towards the doctors they blame for their suffering, despite those days being long gone. Whilst future generations of intersex children will benefit from improvements to care, it's just too late for some.